man.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Coming to you from our new studio in West Palm Beach. We've been filming content the last day or so. When you see the new studio behind me, you can know that it was filmed in the last 24 hours or so. But it'll be a few weeks before those videos actually make it to YouTube. We're probably about 6 weeks or so ahead, and I'm really excited about a lot of the videos that are going to be coming out. As probably a lot of you have seen, we've really focused in on boring businesses, and for lack of a better term, but really, my goal is to get you to think about all the businesses that are around you in your everyday life and give you ultimately the frameworks and systems that you need in order to go out and build something and make it your own. And I think that is what is so powerful, certainly what's been so powerful about my journey. And I think that one of the things that a lot of the typical entrepreneur influencers get wrong is they want to sell you or tell you a step-by-step program to being successful. And the reality is that kind of playbook just doesn't exist, because everybody brings something unique and different and a different set of skills to the table. And I think that leaning into that and figuring out what you can make uniquely yours is ultimately where you find the most success. And the nice thing is that when you go out and build something that you really understand, that is unique to you, you can go out and use tried and true systems and frameworks to enhance that. But ultimately, the craft has to be driven by you. And it's just before going on this live, I was looking at some of the YouTube comments on one of the most recent videos, and one that I thought was kind of funny is someone essentially saying, well, easy for you to say, if you had no money now, how are you gonna, how would you there's no way you could go out and make $1 million next month, or something like that. And I see that sentiment quite a lot. People say, oh yeah, now that you have money, it's easy for you to go out and make money. And I just think that that's such a flawed way of thinking about business and life. And I've seen it. I've seen it played out so many times in front of me. But the reality is that you need to go out and build the skills and the knowledge that gives you that empowers you to go out and add value that ultimately comes back to you in the form of money. And when I look at myself, as a 42-year-old now entrepreneur, and the skills that I have learned and built over those years, then I would much rather, if you were only going to take away my money or my skills, I promise you, I would much rather start at zero and keep my skills than have the money that I have today without the skills and the knowledge that I have. Because I know it would be so much easier for me to go out and build and create more, given the skills and experience and frameworks that I have honed over the last 30 years of being an entrepreneur, give or take. Those are invaluable to me, whereas money is something that you can go out and get using those skills. And so I think that that is why I preach so much, and in all of my videos, so much about really honing your craft, building your skills, and using that as your leverage point to ultimately amass resources and make money. And I've lived that firsthand, and I firmly believe that. And that is really what is behind all of the content that we are putting out today. I mean, and actually just this morning, we launched we published a video about high income skills, and it's really kind of about this particular subject. But those if you have high income skills, like sales ability or marketing ability, and we went through a whole list of them, but it can take so many different forms. Then you're never going to go hungry if you have those skills. Like you always have the ability to go out and create value for another business, another entrepreneur, or as a consultant, and you can turn that value into money. And so that really de-risk you when you want to go out and do something entrepreneurial, because if you have those skills to fall back on, then they can take away all your money. You can go bankrupt. You can have bad financial things happen to you, but because you have those skills, you're going to be able to go out there and put food on the table, and that's where real freedom lies. It's actually much scarier. And I've seen this firsthand for people that have money but don't have skills, because then they're always living in coming from a place of scarcity because they're afraid of losing it. Because if you can't go out and create it again, then you're going to be scared to death and worried about losing your money, and that's a much more difficult place to be, quite frankly. But if you have the skills and the knowledge that you can go out and you can sell, or you can go out and provide a service because you're a licensed plumber, or like any of these things, like if you have those skills that nobody can take away from you, then that is true freedom. But that freedom is what allows you to go out and take a bit more risk if you want to build something bigger entrepreneurially, because you have those skills to fall back on. You know that, hey, worst comes to worst, I can go out and get a job using the high value skill that I have honed, right? And that's why you hear me talking about it so much. And I think that is really how you need to start, particularly if you're in your 20s and you're like, hey, how do I get how do I want to get started? Well, go out and build skills that are high value, and that can take so many different forms. And again, we did a video talking about a number of those forms, but you need to figure out what you're good at, and like if you can figure out something that you're good at and comes natural and is interesting to you, then that is really where where I would lean in. I mean, if you really are into computers and live real programming, and then there's lots of AI things you could do that would be interesting. But if you really are good with your hands, then there are many trade type professions or skills that are interesting. If you really like talking, lots of sales. Sales is a huge opportunity, and that can take so many different forms. And I just think that is where you need to start if you are thinking about how to get started on your entrepreneurial journey. So that's what I'm thinking about this morning, and we did a video just about that this morning, and we have a lot. It's really a part of a series for how to be thinking about both getting started, like how do you kind of get started on this path, but then with my content, I really want to help people to get started, and then say, hey, you want to scale to a small business, maybe $1 to $3 million of revenue. There are some systems and frameworks for that. There's different set of systems and frameworks for 3 to 10, from 10 to 50, 50 to 100. And I've been on those steps at least up to 250 or $280 million plus, and intend to document the rest of my journey and share those lessons as I learned them with you. But I really want people to start thinking about the value that they're offering, but then the frameworks that we can put on top of that to ultimately build a sustainable business. And that is like the high level theme of a lot of the content that we're focusing on and putting out. And I intend to hone that as we go, and hopefully find ways to really provide a lot of value for anybody who wants to take the initiative to watch and then ultimately go out and do something with it. So with that, Michael, I'm ready. Let's start taking some questions. What would you say are the top 3 things as an entrepreneur should do in the first year of marketing their business well and building a consistent pipeline of sales? It's actually one thing, and that is find one channel and master it. That is my best advice when you're getting started. I mean, I think that the biggest mistake that so many people when they're getting started make is that they are trying to do too much, and you kind of get that shiny syndrome, and maybe you start saying, hey, I think Facebook is a great place for Facebook ads are a great place for me to start. You maybe do it for a couple weeks and you don't really see the results you want, and then you say, now I'm going to go focus on door-to-door sales, and then that doesn't really work after a couple weeks, and then you're gonna go say, hey, Yelp is really where I need to go. I think that you'd be best off really focusing in on one channel, mastering it, and making it your own before you try to do anything else. And generally, if you know the industry that you're in well enough, and you have some experience in it, which I would recommend before getting started in a business, certainly, you're going to know which channel is likely to have to be the most fruitful, and I would go all in on that one channel before trying to diversify into other channels. And if any business is worth doing, has at least one channel or one strategy, if you want to call it. I mean, they can take a lot of different forms that can get you to some form of escape velocity, 7-figure plus of revenue. I think any business that's worth going after, you can get there mastering one channel or one type of sales strategy. And I would be hyper focused on the one sales strategy or one sales channel that I truly believed would work for this business, and not try to do anything else until I figured that out and mastered it. And then that's when you're like, once you master it and you can systematize around it and you can train other people to follow the process that you as the entrepreneur built to get from 0 to 1, then you are in the right to start diversifying into other channels and trying other things. But I feel very confident that mastering one channel or one sales strategy early on is the path of least resistance, because it sounds so great to say, like people always say, how many streams of income do you have? I mean, I'm kind of conflating something else here, but I hear that all the time. And I think that's just such bad advice, especially to someone getting started, because you are going to get back what you put in, and the energy you put in, the more concentrated it is, the more focused it is, the higher the probability of you breaking through and having real success is on that channel, in my opinion. And if you're trying to spread that energy across 5 different tactics that you're kind of toying with, then you're just going to find that none of them really work, or you don't ever really give them the time and the energy that they need to work. And I have made this mistake so many times in my career. I still make it today, to be honest with you. And it's something that I have to constantly remind myself, like, what are the initiatives that I am choosing to put my energy and my focus into, and being really, being really thoughtful about that and strategic about it. And so early on, the best way to do that is to pick the channel that you know in your heart is going to be the most fruitful if you can crack it, and then wake up every day determined to crack that one sales channel or that one sales strategy. And once you do that, then you're going to get to that kind of from 0 to 1 or some type of escape velocity, and then you can start diversifying and finding other ways, other places to put in that energy. So that's what I got for you. I hope you follow that advice and go out and build something successful for you. Michael, what's next? Michael's cousin, Michael Shanley. What gave you the confidence in your business idea early on that helped you push through the tough times? I've talked about this a lot, but it's not like I woke up one day and just said, I'm going to build the largest direct-to-consumer air filter brand. That's my calling in life, or I'm going to build the world's leading indoor air quality company, which is the mission I'm currently on. It's not like I just woke up at 29 and said, that's it. That's what I'm devoting my life to, right? I got there by lots of small experimentation and evolution, through building my skills, which I talk about all the time, honing those, trying lots of different kind of business ideas, using those skills and honing them, and failing, and just like kind of constantly iterating and toying. And I won't go through the whole thing because it'll bore the regular viewers. But I basically I sold my first thing online when I was 14 years old, and I tried a lot of different tactics, lots of different things, and ultimately through a drop shipping business in my 20s, realized how big of a market the air filter market was. And then because of that kind of initial insight that I got through some drop shipping in that, I started going deeper on the industry, deeper on the opportunity. And by the time I started actually manufacturing them, I had already had enough evidence to convince myself that this was an opportunity worth pursuing in a major way, and I went all in on it. But you don't build that. You don't just wake up one day and have an aha moment and say, "Oh, this is the thing that I'm going to devote the rest of my life to." You have to earn that. You earn that through experience and experimentation, and then one day then one day you will wake up and say, "Wow, this is a huge opportunity. I'm going to put all of my energy into this opportunity," which is what I did. And then it can still evolve, and just as mine has evolved. And now I've kind of set my sights even higher, even bigger, by making the kind of rest of my business life about building the world's leading indoor air quality company. But it didn't start off that way. It's been an evolution of experience, and I think that is what you would find like most successful people would tell you. But that is why you need to go out. We need to stop chasing the magic idea or the magic bullet, because it just doesn't exist. Like, that's just a fairy tale that I think a lot of maybe well-meaning influencers may tell you. It's really about building your skills and your experience set, that is, and keeping your eyes open and always thinking about how to improve the businesses you see around you, or maybe the business that you're working in. And then one day you're going to wake up and see an opportunity that's going to speak to you, specifically to you, because of your unique lived experience and your unique skill set. And then that's when you're going to have the confidence to say to yourself, "Wow, this is what I want to spend my energy on, at the expense of everything else. Maybe you have a lot of other good ideas, but this is the one that really speaks to you, that you're obsessed with, that you really believe in." But you don't get that by watching YouTube videos. You don't get that by frankly asking me a question on a live. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. You get that by going out and earning it through experience and keeping your eyes open, and being open to having that aha moment that then you want to devote your energy and your life to. And that was how it happened for me. But that was over I had been experimenting with a lot of these things for 15 years before I actually saw the opportunity that I decided to take the leap and go all in on. Right. I mean, it was at least 15 years of experimentation in various forms around internet marketing and selling stuff online and building websites, and toying with selling physical products, and affiliate marketing, like all of those things that then culminated, and then coming across this opportunity that then I was excited about and decided to make my own and build. And so that is what I recommend for anyone. I mean, I think that the only way you're going to get that aha moment is by earning it, by building the experience and the skill set. And there's really no way to shortcut that, in my opinion. And I think that the sooner that you accept that and own it, the better off you're going to be. So that's how I think about that. Okay, Michael, what's next? Bride and Queen. With $250 million in annual sales and $50 million allocated to marketing, alongside the significant overhead costs typical of a large manufacturing operation, how are you able to maintain profitability and avoid negative cash flow? Well, I mean, this is a obviously a very different answer for any business. Like ultimately, you have to understand your numbers and your business very well. I mean, I think that like in our case, I have a very deep understanding of the economics of our business, and we are designed in a way that we are profitable and have been effectively more or less since the beginning. And the way you do that is by really understanding your numbers and budgeting where those dollars are going. And we have a very formal budget and allocations that we know where we are allocating to each piece of our business. And keep in mind we're completely vertically integrated, so we manufacture all of our own products, and we have a distribution network that allows us to deliver those products as cost effectively as any of our competitors in our particular niche. So we've really optimized for cost in our manufacturing and distribution, to an extreme level, and that's a huge competitive advantage for us. But it's one that you have to build over time. It doesn't get built overnight, and it's like you just have to start in the same way that I did. But I always have been very focused on our margins and how we price everything, and what our cost structure looks like for each component of that. I mean, I'm not going to break down our exact percentages of these things, but we're very methodical about how we spend our each line item of our money, including marketing and shipping and this kind of stuff. So it's in the same way that any business would do this. You have to have a budget, and you're going to have to make sure that your unit economics of your product are good enough that they are going to allow you to spend the budget that you have. Um, from a cash flow perspective, I would tell you that I think cash flow is the oxygen for a business, and it is extremely important to build a business with your cash flow cycle in mind. One benefit that we have had, and it was designed this way, is part of the reason why I went after this business. But we have a very good cash conversion cycle in the sense that you think about most e-commerce businesses are buying their products overseas, and they're having to then ship those products into the US, and then they have to warehouse them and potentially reship them throughout the US to other warehouses before they get delivered to the end customer. And because of that, then if you're following that business model, you oftentimes have 5 or 6 months of inventory between what you have in your warehousing and what you have on the water, more or less, being imported. If you don't want to run out of stock, you're going to have a very deep inventory base. And because we manufacture all of our own products, we keep less than 2 weeks of finished goods inventory within our system at any given time. We keep more than that from raw material because we have to always make sure that we are going to be able to make anything that we sell. But it's much cheaper to carry raw material cost than it is finished goods inventory cost on a balance sheet. And so because we are so vertically integrated and we are able to turn our inventory so quickly, as we are growing, we do not have a significant capital cost as it relates to our inventory, which is something that most e-commerce businesses or physical products businesses do have happen. And I think that it's a trap that a lot of physical products business owners get into, because as they grow, they find that they're having to keep more inventory, and the faster you grow, the more negative your cash flow cycle oftentimes can be because of that. Because if you're growing fast, you can be buying more in inventory than you could be easily than you can be making in profit. And then that creates a negative cash flow cycle. And it's even compounded by the fact that, in the IRS tax code, inventory, if you're growing inventory, you still have to pay your taxes on your earnings. So you can be negative cash flow because you've grown your inventory more than your earnings in a year, but you still have to pay taxes on that earnings, which creates an even worse cash flow cycle. And that's something that when I was thinking about our business model and how we were going to approach the market, the types of industries that we're going after, I was very conscious of that cash conversion cycle. And I think that's why I talk so much about cash flow and understanding it. And I think that the only way that you're able to scale a business is by having a deep understanding of not only your unit economics and like your profitability and where you're spending all of your money to support your business. You have to have a deep understanding of that, but you also have to have a deep understanding of how your cash position is going to shift as your business grows or as it decelerates if you have a seasonal business as well, right? And so those are the two things that I would recommend for any business to really have a deep understanding of: unit economics and your budget, and based off of that budget, how do you expect your cash flow cycle to be throughout a year, and planning for that. And it's something that I've effectively done for our business from the very beginning and have a very deep understanding of that. And the only way that you're able to scale a business is by having a deep understanding of those two things. And I'll just say, if anybody's watching this, if you want a deeper dive on either of those two things, if you comment about it on some of our videos, is something that we may actually ultimately put into one of our upcoming videos. I think that there's a lot to unpack in these two subjects, really. The unit economics piece and what that should look like for a business, as well as just cash flow management and cash conversion cycles and whatnot. And those are things I'm definitely happy to talk about more in detail if it's something that people really are interested in. And so, if you comment about it somewhere, we'll definitely take that into consideration, and something we can talk a lot about. It's something I've studied at a quite a detailed level, but I think I just kind of gave you at least high level how I think about how I think about that within our business. But every business is different, and so I think that's why in service businesses versus products businesses versus manufacturing businesses versus distribution businesses, all very different. That's why there is no universal answer to these questions, by the way. And anybody that's trying to tell you a universal answer is lying to you. I've had a lot more experience, I think, with this than most, because we actually run kind of multiple businesses in one, in the sense that we do all of our own distribution, we do all of our own manufacturing, we do all of our own direct to consumer fulfillment. Each of those are very distinct businesses that would have that if they that most companies are running only that aspect of a business, and so they have one set of unit economics and whatnot that would make them competitive. But we're running like a blended model. And so I've really, when I thought about our business, broken it down from each of those pieces and understand each of those pieces at uniquely at a detailed level, and then combine them up to our overall business. And as part of our, part of the secret sauce for, for Filter by Certainly. But, something I'm, happy to, go deeper on if there are particular topics within this that you all find particularly helpful or interesting. So hope you've got something out of that. What's next, Michael? Do you feel that PE companies can provide real value to small businesses? There are no universal truths in life, or there are no universal truths in life, certainly not in business. And I definitely, even though the people that help me with my YouTube channel really hate it when I say this, probably, or when I take this position, but I think that in general we would all be a lot smarter to get away from, declarative statements of universal truth, like all PE companies being good or all PE companies being bad or all business models being good or all business models being bad. The reality is that they're all true. So like you could sit here and like find examples where PE was great for small businesses and like the if I was going to say the good part is like, well, if you want to sell your business, I should take a little bit of a step back. One thing that annoys me is I see all of this content, all these people online talking about how you have the all these baby boomers that are selling their businesses. And this, it's never been a better time to buy a small business because you have all of these baby boomers that are retiring, like, X number a day, and they don't have anybody to take over their business. You can be the one. I'm going to sell you a course and I'm going to teach you how to buy small businesses. And you're going to be rich. You see so many influencers selling this, and I just think that is so flawed, and I'll tell you why. And it relates to your question. The At the same time, like what they're saying, has some truth to it. Like there's some like data that backs that up. But at the same time, there has never been more capital chasing small businesses. So you have you have so many private equity firms out there looking to roll up and buy small businesses, oftentimes paying very high multiples to those small businesses, multiples that 20 years ago would have been unheard of for such a small business. And the reason that exists is because there's so much capital chasing these opportunities. And so what I say to those gurus that are selling you, how to buy a small business, the reason why I think that's flawed and just not true is that if you have a business that is actually a good business that is really worth something, that has value because you built the systems and frameworks, and it's gonna survive whether or not you're there, and it's like really in a good hot industry and with good margins, I promise you, it has never been a better time to sell your business. It is like these baby boomers that are giving away businesses. I promise you, the private equity world is very happy to take them if they're worth anything. And there has never been more capital chasing these businesses, and it's probably like even the genesis for your question shows that, because like everybody knows this, and so like how can both of these things be true? Like there's never been more capital chasing these small businesses, and like private equity is ruining small business buying by going out and paying high multiples for all these small businesses, and then running them into the ground. But they're overpaying and driving up prices. So you have that, but then you have these other people telling you, there are more businesses for sale than there are people who can run them. You can buy businesses for cheap because baby boomers are retiring and are desperate to sell their businesses. And that's just, quite frankly, a marketing tactic that is just not true. Because private equity, it's never been a better time to sell a business if you have a good business, because private equity has been driving up prices. And so if I were going to say what is the real value to small business, well, if you own one, is value in that you have an exit plan. And some of the videos that I'm putting out in the next few weeks, or actually that we filmed in the last day, that'll probably be 6 weeks plus, I talk a lot about this because I do think it's an important subject. And the nice thing about building a business, if you build a real business that you have systems around and that is sustainable, then you do have an exit plan to be able to sell that business for a multiple of earnings, whatever it is that you decide to you want to get out of that business or retire. And private equity is a great way for you to do that, because they have the money and oftentimes the expertise in certain roll-up industries to buy from you. And so like if you're a small business that wants to sell your business, then you should love private equity, because it gives you the opportunity to build a business that then you can sell to someone for a significant amount of money, and that can be your retirement plan. And so if you're a business builder and you want to build real wealth, then I think you should be very happy for private equity to come in and drive up the prices and have the money to give you an exit when you want to get out of that business. And so I think if I was starting a business, I would view private equity as good, because it gives me an exit plan that I know, like, if I'm done with this and I don't want to fool with it anymore, I can sell it for a multiple of earnings, and cash out. So in that sense, private equity is good. Now, I am not a fan of private equity for a number of reasons. I get probably 20 emails a day from private equity firms looking to buy Filter Buy. And for the record, we are not for sale, and you can stop emailing me. I'm not going to respond, except maybe to tell you, just take me off your mailing list. And that's a whole other story. But, I do think that one of the core problems that private equity gets wrong is, and it goes back to why I always talk about building skills and really understanding a business. People that go, and obviously I'm generalizing here, not true for all private equity firms, but a lot of private equity, is run by people that have never actually worked in any real business or any any real trade of any kind. And they come in with spreadsheets and theories that they maybe read in a textbook. And in my lived experience, there's a big difference between the theory that you can read in a textbook and the realities of running a small business, or any business for that matter. But you asked about small business, and I do think that I think that you're going to find that a lot of private equity that have gotten into the quote unquote boring business space, rolling up these companies, is going to, you're going to start hearing more about cracks in that, from bad deals that have happened over the last number of years. You see it some already. I mean, I know stories of large roll-up strategies, say in the HVAC business, that have failed and they're defaulting on their debt and whatnot. And I think a lot of people get hurt in that. Like, a lot of the employees of those businesses get hurt in that. A lot of the vendors in those businesses get hurt in that. Or a lot of local communities in those times get hurt in that. And I think that is a tragedy that could be solved by better operating and like actually understanding of the businesses that these private equity firms are rolling up and buying. And I think I intend to build a competitive answer to that, and that, like, part of the reason why I've started to go public with my brand. And you'll see, we link to Filter by Ventures everywhere, in terms of what I'm, the kind of the brand I'm ultimately looking to build. And it's that I want to be a partner and or an acquirer of businesses that I understand, or in industries that I understand, that I can ultimately provide a good home for somebody who wants to exit, that is not a private equity home. And that is part of my mission and part of what I'm interested in and looking to build, and why I'm doing this. And because I do think a lot of what private equity does is flawed. But anyways, this is something we probably should do a whole video on, or maybe a series on at some point. But that's kind of my top level thoughts about private equity and small business at the moment. I'll leave it at that. HUD's bro. My biggest struggle is waiting on people. Graphic design, box maker, cabinet guy. Chasing people or changing people is no fun. How do people build large companies so fast? Well, I hate to tell you, but if you think that the people are your problem, oftentimes you need to look in the mirror, and it starts with you. I know I only know that because I've lived it. And you know, it's a constant battle that anybody that manages people or deals with people is going to face. I mean, expecting employees, or it sounds like contractors in your case, to take your business as seriously as you do, and building a frameworks that require them to take it as seriously as you do is just kind of a flawed approach in the beginning, right? I think you need to change your approach and how you're dealing with it. Make sure you're communicating clearly what your expectations are up front, and make sure that you are including their feedback and like in those timelines and expectations, and building a robust enough system that you're going to be able to repeat and scale. I do think that it sounds like, just based off of what you're saying here, that you're at the startup phases of something. And, I don't know of a cheat code to really, to accelerate those startup phases. Like, these things just take time. I mean, we're dealing with this in like our new products rollout, for instance. I mean, we're rolling out some air purifier filters and some cabin air filter for cars, and like waiting for the box design, waiting for every component to be ready to be tested and whatnot is time consuming. And there's really no magic bullet to overcoming that, but you need consistency and patience to be able to overcome it. And I think that maybe you need to be a little more realistic about what a timeline for what is possible can be. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you're devoting yourself on projects that once you get them stable and up to some type of scale, that they are going to be able to operate consistently, without as much energy or input from you. I mean, like the energy that you're putting in the beginning, I don't see any way around it. I mean, you have to put a tremendous amount of energy and time, and patience, to be able to get something off the ground, and you're going to have delays, and you're going to have to deal with slow people and this kind of stuff, and that's just life. So you got to accept that. But you need to make sure that when you're done with all of this, that you have a robust enough system that is going to be repeatable, that is going to be there working, so that then you can go out and do this again in a new project and be patient to do all the upfront work or whatnot that you need to get it off the ground. And I think that you're kind of everything in life compounds, and there's a whole other video we're doing on this. But like at the beginning of compounding, it looks like nothing, right? I mean, it's just like, it looks like you're not making any progress. You're frustrated because you're just you're barely moving. But then as time goes on, you start to get momentum, and things compound, and the things compound at a higher rate and a higher rate and a higher rate and a higher rate, and then you get to escape velocity. And that's true in any business or in any new initiative that you're going after. And I always say this, but it's just so true. And I think that, based off of your question, if anybody should hear this today, it should be you. People consistently overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. And you say, how do people build large companies so fast? Well, I've built a $250 million plus company in the last 12 or so years. And for me, that felt very slow. Like every aspect of it has felt slow. And even today, like we're doing things that are going to really move the needle on the business. It feels so slow to me. I cannot tell you how slow it feels. I feel that way on basically every new project initiative that I am working on. I have the exact same, if part of me feels the exact same way that you do, based off the sentiment of your question. But I remind myself that you have to plant those seeds now. You have to start that compounding process now, so that you can reap the rewards years in the future. And once you train yourself to think with that framework, then I think that it's going to, it would be a huge unlock. But the key though is, you need to be very thoughtful about the projects that you choose to put your energy in today, because they're going to be because the only way that they're really going to work is if you have the mental staying power and financial staying power to see it through, to get compounding curve really moving, and it takes longer than most people think, and longer certainly than most YouTube gurus will tell you. I mean, at least I've been looking for the cheat code, way to build a large company fast my whole life, and I've never found it. But when I focused on a few core ideas consistently over a long period of time, that's when I've had the disproportionate success. And I have to remind myself of this all the time within my business. And I think that the sooner that you can internalize that and understand what that means, the better off you're going to be. So hopefully you find that helpful. I think having a short-term bias to action, extremely important, like extremely important. So you don't want to lose that. You want to be pushing, but at the same time, in the macro, you have to be patient. Because you have to know that you're playing a long game and you're building something big, and that's why having that long-term vision, that's big, is so important, and consistent over a period of time. Like if you change a big long-term vision every 6 months, you're not going to get anywhere. It's got to be a consistent long-term vision, but then you have to combine that with a short-term bias to action, and holding both of those things at the same time is very tricky, and sometimes mentally it's hard. Believe me, I wrestle with this every day, but that is the way forward if you want to build something big. So hope you take that and run with it. Okay, Michael. Samuel Bello. How important is taking the leap of moving cities to seek bigger/better opportunities once you identify one? Do you believe it's necessary? Again, like as I said before, there is no one right way. There's only, in your case, Samuel's way. Like for Samuel, what do you believe you need to be able to, find success in your life? And ultimately, how do you think about this? If I'm in your shoes, what is it that you're looking to, what is it that you're looking to accomplish? And start reverse engineering the things that you would need in place to accomplish that. And if that's consistent with being in a big city, then yes, you need to move. I will say that, I think, ironically, even more than ever in a social media world, that the caliber of people around you is one of the most important, functions and factors in how successful you're going to be. And I think that one mistake a lot of people make is they kind of get too comfortable, or maybe in like a small environment with the same people. A lot of them maybe don't have the same ambition or motivation, and rather than breaking out of that, most people choose to conform and just to stick within that. And then you do that long enough, and in 10 years you wake up and you've reverted to the mean, and you're just the average of the people that have been around you that whole time. And I think if you find yourself in that situation, then I do highly recommend changing your environment. And I think big cities, especially when you're young or early in your career, can be a great way to do that and find other and surround yourself with other ambitious people that are doing big things or aspire to do big things and are really putting in the work necessary to do big things. And I think that I would, if my advice to you, Samuel, would be to surround yourself with those types of people, and do whatever it takes to put yourself in those rooms and surround yourself with those people. And I apologize, it sounds like there's a big thunderstorm here happening in West Palm, but that would be my advice: is surround yourself with other ambitious people, or people that have ambition that matches yours, and don't be afraid to change that over time. If over time your ambition keeps getting bigger than those around you, then keep leveling up. And I know that sounds harsh, and maybe sometimes you're going to have to kind of move on from friendships or whatnot that you've built. But if you really want to build something big or do something big, then you need to surround yourself with other people that are also doing big things, because those are the people that are going to help encourage you. They're going to be the people that influence you, whether you know it or not. We're all influenced by those that are around us. And I think that, if you're asking this question, you're probably, more likely than not, just in a kind of a smaller environment, smaller thinking environment, less ambitious environment. And oftentimes going to a big city just gives you a larger network or potential network to be able to tap into, that can help you to level up your game. And if you're young and you really want to do something big, then you want to do whatever it takes to level up your game. And surrounding yourself with other ambitious people is a great way to do that when you're younger. And even if it's just through osmosis, by the way, it's like, it's not even that you have to have, I mean, obviously I'd like to see you like up your friend group and whatnot. I think that's important. But even just like being surrounded by successful people, or spending more of your time around other like super successful people, just by being in the same city or the same environment, or like working in the same office building, or like all of these things, really will rub off on you, because you're going to start thinking, well, if that person can do this, I can do it. Or you're going to start realizing that the world was built by people no smarter than you. I mean, I think that's a Steve Jobs thing, I've seen before, so I don't want to misattribute it. But I think the sooner you realize that the world was built by people that are no smarter than you, the better off. The sooner you're going to be willing to go out and take the action, to go out and build the world that you want, right? That you want for you. You want to go out and build the world that you want for Samuel, and that's what I want to see you do. And I do think that changing your environment and up leveling your environment can really help on that process. And it's something that I would certainly recommend you do if you're feeling a little bit stuck where you are, or not feeling the ambition where you are. Then change your environment and go out and feed off the energy somewhere else. And I think that would be my best advice for you. But ultimately, you got to do what's right for you. I mean, and that there is no right or wrong answer to this question. But you have to be honest about what you want out of life and what you're willing to put in to get it. And I think if you're if you're ambitious, then you want to make sure that you're out there, with other ambitious people that are making things happen. And oftentimes that means, getting out of a small town and out to a bigger city. Best of luck to you. Okay, Michael, I got one more, then I got to run. Karen Reddy, how do you view the trade-off between having carry in a large successful business versus owning direct equity in a smaller one? Yeah, again, no right or wrong answer in this stuff. And I even hate to give you too much of an answer on this, to be honest with you, because it's so specific. I mean, it's like, you think about it, the richest people in the world, like, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. I mean, Jeff Bezos, I think, owns 15% of Amazon. And, Elon owns maybe 25% of Tesla. I could be wrong on the stats, but it's that order of magnitude. Yet they're the richest people in the world, right? So they own, fairly small percentages in terms of percentage numbers, of extremely huge companies. And like, I think if you look at like all of the wealthiest people, like, in the world, that is the case, right? So undeniably, if you want to build like huge wealth, that, you can be a small owner of a huge idea or a huge business, and that is going to make you more money. I mean, like, there are, like, the number, 20 person at Facebook is probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars, right? I mean, and so I think that it's a complete fallacy to think you need to own control of a whole business to get wealthy. In fact, I think it's actually the opposite. I think oftentimes I would rather own a smaller portion of a big business, than a control of a small one. I mean, I think that for most people, if you're looking on the financial metrics, that is the best way. And it's like I think about, like the team I have around me that's helping me to run my businesses. Like I want them to have a financial stake in how well the business does, and we incentivize off of that, and I think it's super important. And like even when you own a business, you want to make sure that people are incentivized properly around you, and to make the right things. And so I do think that those are ways to ultimately build wealth. I think more often than not, that's probably the right answer if I had to pick one, but between the two of it. But owning your own business gives you a lot of flexibility. There are a lot of tax advantages to owning your own business. You ultimately have an asset that you can sell, that you get to choose when you sell or don't sell, right? And so there's lots of flexibility that comes with that. That to me is super important. I value that more than other things, and certainly than some other people do. So that's the path that I have taken. I don't think that it is necessarily the easiest path or the highest probability of success, though, because when you're in full control, and like when you're in full control, you don't have the accountability mechanisms that a lot of bigger companies have, or companies with investors have, right? And I think that can be hard. I mean, it's part of the reason why I have a performance coach, for instance, or part of the reason why I've structured things in the ways that I have, kind of working through that. But I do think that I think when you own your own business, that can actually, it can keep you, it can hold you back from doing bigger things, because you're kind of limited by your own skill set and your own knowledge, and your own ability to push forward. And I think that that's a limiting factor for a lot of people that choose to do it alone. I chose to do it alone, and it's so, like, that's why there's no one right answer to it, right? It's really highly dependent on your personality, what you're looking to do, and what your opportunity set is. I mean, but in this question, like, the opportunity set is also a huge factor in this, right? It's like, without knowing your opportunity set, it's impossible to really help you to benchmark this specific thing. I tried to give you kind of the pros and cons for each, but I actually think that most people, if I'm honest, would be better off owning a smaller piece in a larger business than the opposite. Even though, keeping in mind, I've chosen to go the opposite for a whole host of reasons personal to me, which at some point we can talk about if you want. But most people, I think, would be better off having a smaller portion of a much larger business than going it alone, all else equal, if you're looking for the highest probability of success, in my opinion. So with that, I've got to run. I've got to head to the airport, but I would appreciate if you would hit the like button for weekly live streams. We did publish a video this morning on high value skills that I would highly recommend watching. We've really been focusing on our long form YouTube content this is week 3, I guess, of our new style and series, and it seems to be getting a lot of traction. So I really appreciate that. But I would appreciate it if you'd watch the video today and maybe share it with a friend or two. But I will be here again next Friday on 4th of July. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be curious to see if any of you show up. But I'm going to be here taking questions, and I think even Michael's agreed to feed those questions to me. So we'll be here to do our Q&A next week. And if we get a lot of interest, maybe I'll even go longer. But we'll see how many questions we actually see coming in, and how many of you are going to listen to something like that on the 4th of July, or if you're going to be out barbecuing and not and ignoring me. But anyways, hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you next week on the 4th of July. Thanks for showing up.